Welcome back to the JB Weekly channel, guys. My name is Demon, and today, my little Marvelous Peeps, we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 Marvel productions from the year of 2021. And when I say productions, I mean movies and shows, so the Guardians of the Galaxy game will not be on this list, although it definitely should be. I highly recommend that game. It has a lot of fun moments and hilarious dialogue. Nope, I'm not sponsored. I'm only a fan. But alright, let's get to the list. Filling in our number 10 spot, we have Venom, Let There Be Carnage. While this movie doesn't take place in the MCU, the end credit scene does make it part of the MCU, at least briefly. And Venom is a Marvel character, so it's just lucky to be on this list in the first place. Now, I don't really like this movie at all. The comedy doesn't really work for me, Carnage and Cletus Cassidy aren't really as dark and as twisted as I wanted them to be, and the overall plot seems just very rushed. Which would make sense because the movie is only an hour and a half long, so that's why Venom Let There Be Carnage is in last place. I don't know if it deserves even a spot on this list, but top 10 does sound better than top 9, so we'll let it go. But then again, saying it's on the top 10 does make it sound like I enjoyed the movie. Alright, moving on. In the number 9 spot, we have the What If series. The What If series was a cool concept, and they had a few episodes that I actually enjoyed. And I don't want to repeat myself too much about this, so if you want to see my full opinions for this show or any other ones that's mentioned on this video that I've done a review on, I'll link them down below in the comments, or sorry, in the description. But there were a few good episodes. Marvel Zombies was a cool concept, but just was a little bit rushed. And that kind of applies for every episode. I feel like if these episodes were like 10-15 minutes longer, they would be so much better for sure. We would be able to spend more time in that new reality rather than shoving as much as they can in before the credits start rolling. But the real problem I had with the show was the ending, and I didn't like how they killed Ultron. I loved Ultron in episode 8, but the finale was a bit of a letdown for me personally. And in our number 8 seat, we have Black Widow. Now, Black Widow was a semi-dark spy thriller style movie, kind of like the Jason Bourne movies, except without the dark storytelling because it is Marvel after all. They did pretty well in the beginning, setting up a darker tone by doing a montage of the girls being kidnapped and trained to be assassins, but they don't really get into much more detail about their upbringing other than through witty banter and jokes, so the tone of the movie doesn't really stick. I heard some people have a problem with Taskmaster being a woman, unlike in the comics, and while I get their concern, I don't really have an issue with it. It's supposed to be a woman-empowering movie, I imagine, so go for it. But the one big issue I had with Taskmaster is the lack of personality and character. She had one line through the whole movie. Other than that one line, all she does is tilt her head and stare. The choreography was great for Taskmaster, but the character herself was a letdown. In the lucky number 7 seat, we have Eternals. Now, going to see the Eternals was one of those rare occasions that I go into the theater expecting to really enjoy a film and walking away not really doing so. That's rare for me, especially for a superhero film. I have a full review that I'll leave down below in the description for the curious, but I was just never drawn to the film. The highlights for sure were the Celestials. Any scene with them in it was mind-blowing on just their sheer size alone. And I liked some of the abilities that the Eternals had, but I don't really understand some of them. Like they were sent to Earth to defend against the Deviants, but Druid can only control humans, and Cersei can't manipulate organic life until later in the movie, so they don't really have a good way to defend against them. Also, the love connection between Icarus and Cersei was never really felt in my opinion. I felt more love between Gilgamesh and Thena, but maybe that's just me. It's a fair movie, pretty middle of the road, but I am looking forward to the sequel to some degree. Rounding off our bottom 5, we have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I really enjoyed the dynamic between Bucky and Sam and the way they go at it with each other through the whole series. And I also really like the idea of a person trying to fill Captain America's shoes and being corrupted, but then they just made him a hero in the end. Why not just let him be twisted? It was so good. Baron Zemo was a blast in this show as well. He was like a weird, awkward, kind of third wheel character between Sam and Bucky, but he did play the role really well. Agent Carter being the power broker was cool, but it was pretty obvious that it was gonna be her. But the one problem that I had in the show was the little ginger chick. I think her name was Carly. Initially, you can get behind her motive. She's trying to start a movement or raise awareness or start a rebellion, whatever you want to call it. But then it goes from starting a rebellion to then blowing up buildings, and Sam is still trying to get on her good side. Now, we know we gotta sell the idea of Sam being the next Captain America, but I don't know if Steve Rogers himself would try this hard to be on her good side. Like, she's killing people, so he'd probably just step in to stop her. But again, that's just my opinion. Starting off the top 5 of 2021, we have Hawkeye. Now, this was a surprisingly good show. After they announced it, I didn't really think that I would care all that much for it, but Kate Bishop is a great character to play off of Clint, and although I think Echo is kind of underused in the show, the addition of Kingpin is what sold it as a top 5 spot for me for sure. Kingpin is a character that I loved from Daredevil, as pretty much everybody probably does. I like that they play with the idea of trick arrows as well as show some of the very human problems that Clint has, such as trying to spend time with his family for the holidays, but also trying to bury his past as Ronin, as well as make sure Kate Bishop is safe. It's a very heartwarming show, and as of recording this, the last episode has still yet to come out, so I'm very excited to see how it all ends. At number 4, we have WandaVision. Now, you know that WandaVision was going to be ranked fairly high on this list, and the only reason that it's not ranked a little bit higher is because I think that a lot of the impact that this show had was the speculations after every episode of not knowing what was coming next. There were a lot of curveballs thrown into every episode that just make you question everything that was happening, and it drove the fan base nuts trying to piece it together. And although we never got to see Mephisto, I think the ending worked really well, and of course it set up Doctor Strange 2 to some degree. I really liked the idea that Marvel was playing with the format of this show by having it mimic the format of past shows. It really gave a very unexpected and refreshing take on what could have been a very average superpowered show. Like Flash. And because Wanda is one of the only beings that we know of so far that can alter reality to this scale, it was the perfect time to experiment in such a way. This show was a lot of fun to watch week to week, but again, I think that what made it most fun was the reaction from the first viewing of the episodes, and then week to week having the fan base go nuts trying to piece it together before the next episode was released. So on second viewing, it might not have quite the same impact. And starting off the top 3, we have Loki. And this show was so good. I loved pretty much every second of it. I love that we get to see Loki go from a very arrogant person only wanting to rule to someone who is very humble and sympathetic to those around him, actually making friends along the way. Sylvie was great. She was a blast to watch on screen, and her chemistry with Loki made it that much more enjoyable to watch. Now, I don't care that they are falling in love with basically themselves from another universe, and if people do have a problem with it, they can get over it. You have never met someone from another universe, let alone the other you, so why would it be a bad thing for you to fall in love with that person? It wouldn't. Anyways, Mobius was great as well. I slightly hate the show for not letting him have his jet ski moment, but there's always season 2 coming, so I better see it happen, Marvel! Now, Nathaniel Richards, aka He Who Remains, aka Kang, was so good in the small time that we got to see him. And while the same actor will be playing Kang the Conqueror, I don't imagine he will have the same bubbly personality as he did in this show, but I did enjoy seeing the actor playing him, so I'm sure we'll enjoy anything he does with the character moving forward. And I can't wait for his next appearance. Bringing home the silver medal, we have ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, I did a full video about this movie because it definitely deserves to be praised. I think this movie is one of the best solo entry movies that the MCU has done so far. Sean's father is by far the best character in the movie, and he carries so much emotion behind his motivations, and any scene with the 10 rings being used in them is as good as ever. Like, it's my favorite scenes. I don't know what their origin will be, but I want to see more action with them in it. Also, people have griped about it being a big CGI monster fight at the end of the movie, and I feel like people are really overly critical about stuff like that. They want the movie to remain focused on the martial arts and the 10 rings, and while I can understand that, why not use this opportunity to expand the MCU's use of realms and dimensional beings? To say the big monster fight at the end ruins the movie is to neglect all of the character building and motivations of said characters that came before it, and that just simply isn't fair to the movie. Wenwu did not release a monster to spread darkness and rule the world. He was tricked. In a very understandable way, mind you. So this movie is definitely deserving of a second place spot. And I don't think anyone is surprised that Spider-Man No Way Home is at the very tippy top of this list. This movie is a lot like Endgame, where it gives the fans exactly what they want, but also like Infinity War, where the story that you go on is quite the rush and keeps you at the edge of your seat with every new turn. I won't go into too much detail to avoid spoilers because I will be releasing a full video about this movie soon, but if you haven't seen it in theaters yet, you gotta go see it. You gotta go see it in theaters. It's one of those movies. Tom Holland is amazing in this movie, and this is the best we've seen him as Spider-Man since his debut. Just the roller coaster that this movie takes you on and the emotions it makes you experience is enough to put it in the top 5 Marvel movies and easily one of the best Spider-Man movies. Maybe not the best, but definitely top 2 or 3. The ending for this movie is the best possible ending that the MCU could have done for his character, and if you haven't seen it yet, you'll know why once you do. This movie makes me look forward to the next Spider-Man film that we will get because this movie just blew me out of the water. Do you agree with my list? Let me know down below what changes you would make. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, leave a sub to show some love, and have a marvelous Merry Christmas.